Hey everyone, it's Sekaar, and today we're going to be going over my stamina sorcerer build that I've been using lately for update 41. This build is insanely strong. I think this build might have some of the most damage I've ever had on a build. That being said, this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and I completely understand that. This build is 100% procs, and I know that there are a lot of people that just don't like procs. So if you don't like this, then don't run it. So for the people that do like it, hey, I hope that you like this build, and I hope that this is for you. So I don't really want to see any of those comments saying, oh, this is just a proc build. Yeah, I know it's a proc build. That's why I made it, because I can play whatever I want. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Also, real quick, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. I would really appreciate that, and that would be awesome of you. Also, hit that like button. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. So we're gonna be an orc on our StamSorc. I really like orc lately for StamSorc. I love that extra little bit of damage you get, that extra little bit of speed you get as well. On top of that, for orc is absolutely nuts, and I just really think that it complements StamSorc so well. If you don't have orc, well, if you don't want to use orc, I think the other two races that would work really well with this are Khajiit and even Imperial. I like Imperial a lot for StamSorc. Moving on to our attributes, we're going to have 53 points into health and then 11 points into stamina to give us a max magic pool of 16.8k, a max health pool of 34.2k, and a max stam pool of 23.4k. We're also going to be using the warrior as our Mundus stone to increase our overall weapon damage. We're also going to be using vampire stage 3 to increase our overall tankiness with that undeath passive. The less health we have, the less damage we take. So that's definitely huge for this build. So moving on to our gear, we're going to be using Maersalak as our monster set. Maersalak, what that's going to do is going to give you a line of max stamina, and then the two piece is when you deal damage with a melee heavy attack, you spew a cone of corruption, dealing 8,144 disease damage to enemies over 4 seconds, and that damage is increased by 10% for each negative effect the enemy has, and that is absolutely massive because we are stacking status effects on your enemies, and honestly, you probably get a minimum of, I'm just trying to do mental math right now. You have a minimum of like 6 to 7 extra status effects that you put on your enemies. So that is a lot. And that's not even with our buffs up either. So that tooltip gets a lot higher. And then that's going to probably be increased by about 60 to 70%. So that Maersalak damage is huge. And that's over a 4-second window. That's really not that much time. So we're using a heavy reinforced helmet for Maersalak and a light impenetrable shoulder for Maersalak. On our body at all times, we're going to be using Curse of the Fire because, guys, it's one of my builds and I like Way of the Fire. I think you guys know that at this point. So what Way of the Fire does is it's going to give you a line of weapon and spell damage, max stamina, crit chance, and then when you deal damage with a weapon, you're going to deal an additional 3,118 flame damage, and that can occur once every 2 seconds. So basically, why I like this build, and I know I explain it on every single time I use this, but if this is your first time watching a video, I will still explain it regardless. So that says when you do damage with a weapon, and our main spammable on this build is going to be Rending Slashes, which is a weapon ability in your dual wield line. And the dot that it leaves behind as well, because you have a 20-second dot on Rending Slashes as well, also procs your Way of the Fire because that's also under the conditions of when you deal damage with a weapon. So that's proccing every 2 seconds, Curse of the Way of the Fire with your Rending Slashes. So that is amazing extra sustained damage that really just takes over in the fight, and it is absolutely phenomenal, a great source of damage. So heavy reinforced chest piece for Way of the Fire. Our other set that's gonna get a lot of people riled up, but I don't care because I like it and it hits hard. We're gonna be using Tarnished Nightmare on our front bar. It is a brand new set from the Dungeon Bedlam Veil, and it is absolutely overperforming and hitting so hard, which is why we're using it, because it's a strong set. So we're going to be using Medium Divine's Hands. What Tarnished Nightmare does is it gives you 3 different lines of crit chance, which is amazing for your overall critical chance. Like, that is amazing. I love that. And then also the 5 beast is when you deal critical damage to an enemy, you're going to give a nice little AoE physical damage with that deals 6,400 to any enemies in that burst, including that person. So it's awesome. And it's also going to apply the Sundered status effects, so that can occur once every 8 seconds. So that's a pretty low cooldown, to be honest. And that extra status effect is also going to buff your Maersalak in the long run. So that is absolutely massive. And overall, I just think that Tarnished Nightmare is a really strong proc set because of that AoE pressure it provides. We're also going to be using medium Divine's Belt for Tarnished Nightmare, heavy reinforced legs of Way of the Fire, and then your last body piece is going to be medium Divine's Tarnished Nightmare feet. Moving on to our jewelry, we're going to be using the same thing on all of our jewelry. It's going to be triple infused, Way of the Fire, all weapon and spell damage enchantments on it. And then our front bar set is going to be Tarnished Nightmare maces. Our main hand is going to be Nirnhoned with a poison damage enchantment on it, and our offhand is going to be charged with a disease enchantment on it, and that's 2 extra status effects right there. So just add up those status effects for that Mirrorlock damage. And then moving on, we're going to be using Vadatron's Perfected Ice Staff on the back bar. Guys, I told you there were procs on this build, and I wasn't lying to you. We're going to be using a Defending Ice Staff with an increased weapon and spell damage enchantment on it. Basically, what Vadatron does is it puts a link between you and your target when you cast Weakness to Element on them, and it's going to be doing Flame, Shock, or Frost damage every 1 second to them, and that's also applying status effects as well, and that's also buffing your Mirrorlock, and overall that beam damage that you put on your enemies, it really adds up over time, and it's the amount of pressure that you can provide just from your sets on this build is absolutely ridiculous. Let's go over our champion points real quick, and then we're going to go on to our skills. Our blue slottables are going to be Duelist Rebuff, Focus Mending, Ironclad, and Untamed Aggression. Our red slottables are going to be Pain's Refuge, Sustained by Suffering, Survival Instincts, and Fortified. And then our green tree, what we really care about is Breakfall. That's really important. That's not a slottable, but it's always very important. And then Rationer, and then Liquid Efficiency. We went very defensive with our CP on this build because we're kind of squishy. If you want to have more damage, you definitely could take off something like Duelist Rebuff, but I really wanted that extra little bit of kind of that tankiness, because the build is squishy at the end of the day, but the amount of damage it does is ridiculous. So let's go on to our skills now. Our main spammable is going to be Rending Slashes, and then your enemies are also going to be hit with this hemorrhaging status effect on this as well. So that's another status effect to add to the Mirrorlock pressure. That's absolutely amazing. And overall, it's just a great skill to use because it's going to proc your Way of the Fire. It's a great little source of damage as well. And overall, it's just a really good spammable for a build like this. We're also going to be using Camo Hunter because that's going to give you a source of major savagery and prophecy, so it's going to increase your weapon and spell critical by 2,600 as well. We're also going to be using Crystal Weapon on this build. This is going to be kind of a pseudo-spammable in a way. If you have this, try to make sure you're applying this between every Rending Slash as well, and it's going to give you a lot of extra burst potential. And also on top of that, hitting your enemy with this is going to reduce their armor by 1,000 for 5 seconds. So that's another way just to reduce your enemy's armor and make them less tanky and make you hit a lot harder. Also, we're going to be using Streak on this build because that's going to be one of your main CCs on here. It's a great way to kind of secure those kills because you could stack a lot of pressure on them, hit them with a Streak, and then hit them with like a Rending Slash or something, and boom, easy damage. We also have Bound Ornaments on here. This damage really adds up because you can get those 4 stacks of Bound Ornaments. Basically what happens is when you either light or heavy attack, you're going to basically summon a giant floating knife next to you. And whenever you have those 4 stacks, you activate this ability and boom, it goes towards your enemies. If you could time that really well with your Rending or your Streak or something like that, that's a great source of burst potential as well. Also on top of that, your max stamina is going to be increased by 8%. So that's huge for your overall sustain, damage, all that stuff. It's great to have extra stamina. Then also on our main front bar is going to be Dawnbreaker, because Dawnbreaker is an amazing ultimate and you could time this so well with some of the other abilities. I just love being able to smack somebody after they're fully procced up and dotted down, hitting them with a Dawnbreaker. A lot of enemies can't really survive that, and it's just a great way to secure those kills. And then on our back bar, we're going to be using Critical Surge. That's going to be your source of major brutality and sorcery, so it's going to increase your weapon and spell damage by 20%. Also, while active, dealing critical damage is going to heal you for 4,356 health, and that can occur once every 1 second. So make sure you're always having damage on your enemies because you want that heal from Crit Surge. That is I can't stress enough, that is a massive, significant part of your healing. Make sure you always have like a Rending or something on your enemies. That way it could always have a potential to crit. Also, Hurricane, this is going to be your source of major resolve and minor expedition, so it's going to increase your physical and spell resistance by 6k. Also, it's going to increase your movement speed by 15%. Also, what's very important as well that you guys should not sleep on as well is the little AoE that it provides as well. You're going to be surrounding yourself with a wind, I guess it's called, and you're going to be dealing 1,600 physical damage every 2 seconds for 20 seconds. So when you're brawling out with somebody and you're just hitting all of your other abilities on them, your Hurricane is just ticking constantly on your enemies. And that source of damage, I was looking at my combat metrics on some of the fights today that I was using with this, and Hurricane was honestly consistently in my top 3 to 5 as far as highest DPS goes in extended fights. Hurricane is really nothing to be shy of. It is an amazing source of damage over time when you're having those really long sustained battles. And then Resolving Vigor, this is going to be your 5-second heal over time. That's going to help you get right back up to full health. Also, it's going to be your source of minor resolve, so it's going to increase your physical and spell resistance by 3k for 20 seconds. Dark Deal, this is going to be a nice heal for you, and on top of that, it's going to be a nice source of sustain because you're going to sacrifice some magicka, and you're going to get some about 10,500 health back, and then also 3,600 stam, and that is amazing for your sustain because you can just go in with your stam and then not need to worry about it because you can just Dark Deal and get all of your stamina right back. And then on top of that, you're going to be getting Minor Berserk and Minor Force for 10 seconds. It's going to increase your damage done by 5%. Also increases your critical damage by 5% or by 10% as well. And then what's really important as well that is also helpful for the build is, where is it right here? Where is it? Right here, Exploitation, that passive right here. When you cast a dark magic ability, you grant minor prophecy to you and your group, which is going to increase your spell critical rating for 20 seconds. So basically that just boosts your crit even more, your crit percentage, and I think you get to about 42% spell crit on this build. So that is a lot of crit to have. It is amazing. Then also Elemental Susceptibility. This is going to be your source of major breach on your enemies, so it's going to reduce their physical and spell resistance by 6k. Also, every 7.5 seconds, the enemy is going to be afflicted with the Burning, Chilled, and Concussion status effect, which does a lot of extra damage, and on top of that, that's also going to be extra damage for your Mayor Salak. It's amazing! And then I like using Summon Charge Atcher on my back bar. To me, this is one of the most slept on ultimates in the game. It's a nice source of AoE pressure that you can provide, and it's just a great way to kind of kite around something. If you're in an open field environment, you are struggling, you're taking too much damage, drop this down and just kind of kite around it. That way you just they're not hitting you at all times and they start to hit this as well. And it kind of can be the difference between, I don't know, maybe you survive, maybe you don't, but I just really like this ultimate, and really people sleep on the damage because this happens every 3 seconds that it hits for. So, and that's over a duration of 15 seconds as well. So that's hitting 5 times in that time. And if their enemies are hitting that, dude, they're getting hit really hard by this. And then all your other abilities, definitely think about that. Alright, I think that is the entire build. I also use tripods on this build because tripods are a way of life, and I really like them. And I just definitely recommend them. And then I'm also, I said I was Orga Smoked Bear Haunch to increase our max health and also increase our stamina and magic recovery as well. Alright, and that is really the entire build. I hope that you guys enjoy. This build has been really hitting hard for me, and I just have been enjoying what it's been doing. I just think it's a lot of fun, and that's kind of what the channel is about, is building builds that I enjoy and have fun with. So I really hope that you guys enjoy. This build is live on my website now as well, so if you want to check out my website, the link will be in the description. It is teamsekaar.com. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. We're adding some nice expansions to the website, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to go. Also, if you want to see me streaming, I use all my footage from stream, and that is where we test most of our builds. So if you want to see me streaming, I've been streaming on both Twitch and YouTube 5 days a week. I start around 11 a.m. to 12 in the afternoon, somewhere around there Eastern Standard Time, to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So come on, stop by. I've been streaming on Twitch and YouTube, and it's just been great. I've been loving seeing everybody stopping by. It's been a really fun time. But guys, I can ramble all day, but I'm not gonna. We're gonna get on with the footage for this build. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Later.